2 years ago, I met two sets of developers who had embarked on very risky and very problematic listed developments.
If we were only selling at 150, then we'd be very upset.
How upset?
I'd be really upset.
Tammy's idea of managing is a float-through, a serene visit.
Excuse me, I do all the paperwork for this, so don't even go there, okay?
Even though both developments turned out to be much harder than they ever imagined, it still didn't put them off developing. And I'll be going back to catch up with Mark and Tammy Howard's latest venture.
You're there in the morning having your cornflakes and someone walks past with a barrow full of wet cement and you've got your one-year-old playing in the sand that's in the corridor and it's just a nightmare.
It's every developer's dream to cash in on an easy development, and 24 months ago I met two sets of developers who thought that listed buildings might be the way to do that, but they couldn't have been more wrong. Dave Hearn and Nick Holmes in Dunstable, 30 miles north of London, and Tammy and Mark Howard in Harloxton, Lincolnshire, have both taken on challenging Grade 2 listed buildings that most people would run a mile from. Listed buildings can make tricky developments. There's loads of red tape and your budget can spiral. So it's more important than ever to know what you're getting yourself into. But Mark and Tammy Howard simply don't.
What we know about listed buildings we could write on the back of a postage stamp.
Yeah. So, I guess we're going to learn the hard way.
But that could be a lot harder than Mark and Tammy think. They've just spent £205,000 on this. An old Victorian bakehouse in Harloxton. It needs a huge amount of work doing to it. It needs replumbing and rewiring, and the first floor is collapsing, so many of the timbers need replacing. Worst of all, there's an old bakery with an industrial oven so enormous that it takes up this entire part of the building. It's in a bit of a state, this house, though.
I think that's being quite complimentary.
Yes. Why did you buy it?
Mark doesn't know.
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
But no, every time I'm away from the property, I'm very excited about it. I can visualise what it's going to be like. Every time I come back to the property, I have buyer's remorse. I'm panicking. I'm thinking, what the hell have we done? So time will tell whether this was a good decision or not.
There's no going back now, so Mark and Tammy need to make the most of their investment, and they're going to need their wits about them to turn this huge old rambling house into an appealing family home. This is a 2-storey semi-detached property. Upstairs there are 5 bedrooms and 1 family bathroom. Downstairs the layout is very sprawling, with a lounge leading through to a kitchen, dining room, utility and WC. And across the hall, there's the old bakery with its huge industrial oven that takes up a whole room by itself. Mark and Tammy want to put a new kitchen in the bakery and demolish the entire oven building to make way for an adjoining dining area. And then knock the old kitchen through to the lounge to create one large living room. But they have no idea if the planning department at the local council will let them carry out any of their plans. Now this is the heart of it, isn't it? So
Yep.
the old ovens,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
this is where the flour was?
Yeah, so they used to take the flour upstairs, store it upstairs, and then as they needed it, just drop it through the trapdoor in here.
Cool, knead it up, pop it in. Gosh, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully it's not too fantastic though, because we want to get rid of that. So again, with the planning, we need permission to remove it.
Absolutely.
So your enthusiasm for it worries me
Doesn't
slightly.
help.
Yeah. If you can't move the oven, I mean, you're pretty scuppered, aren't you?
It's critical. It's the biggest gamble we've got with the whole thing.
When you bought the property, you presumed you could just move it, did you?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we walked in and it wasn't great. I mean, we just walked in and thought, well, that can go, and carried on.
I can't see how we're
our-
going to sell the place with a huge, great oven, because I can't see that's on the top of people's shopping lists. I'd like a big baker's oven in my kitchen.
It is an old bakehouse and the oven is integral to its historic importance. I think there is a good chance you'll have to keep it, though.
That's not good news.
Yeah, that's not good news.
Mark and Tammy have taken a massive gamble by not doing enough research on this property, And they don't seem to have a clue about the costs involved either. How much is it going to cost, do you reckon?
Well, the budget that we put together before we understood the proper planning rules was 80,000, and I really want to keep to the 80 as much as I can.
Looking at this, I would say it's a £120,000 job.
Funnily enough, everyone else has seen it and said that too.
I think Mark and Tammy are setting themselves a near-on impossible task. They bought the house for £205,000, have a budget of £80,000, and are hoping to sell for £375,000 to clear a £90,000 gross profit, which I think is a little ambitious. And that's surprising, as Mark and Tammy aren't entirely new to property developing, as although they've never done a renovation before, they've actually made a whopping £400,000 from new build developments over the last 3 years. So this seems like a big risk as their next development. What I'm intrigued about is, why did you decide to stop doing new builds and renovate this listed house?
We thought, well, if we try to go into a renovation, we can turn the properties over a lot quicker, and in theory over the same timeline we should potentially be making the same money. If we're doing everything right, we're turning the property over every 4 or 5 months, hopefully, and in theory the stress should be less, in theory, and the gain should be about the same.
I think it's pretty optimistic to think that you can turn around properties so easily, find them and do them and sell them. You've got a lot of anomalies in there. So how do you guys feel at the moment?
Scared,
nervous. We know we've got a big job on, and a lot of things have to go in our favour to make it happen in the time frame and budget, etc.
Hey, get out while the going's good.
Do you want to buy it?
No thanks, wouldn't touch it with bicycle. Joking aside, although the property has potential, Mark and Tammy couldn't have got it more wrong if they think this renovation will be easier than a new build. 150 miles away in Dunstable, business partners Nick Holmes and Dave Hearn are also taking a massive gamble. Only this time we're not talking about one listed property, but an entire terrace of 6 period houses they're hoping to sell on for over £1 million. A huge development. Each house has to be separately renovated, and while the sheer scale of this development would put off many people, Dave's given up his job as an industrial designer to do the project management, and Nick's taking time out from his flooring company to do the paperwork. But they do seem to have done their homework.
We knew that the building was listed when we bought it, and we also recognised that a lot of the features that are here we were going to restore using traditional techniques.
You can't just steam ahead and do what you would normally do in a normal construction site.
But this is still a high-risk development, because while the whole terrace is large, the individual houses are so small it won't be easy to make them appealing. What's more, Nick and Dave have borrowed over £500,000 to fund the development. Their plan is to get one house finished and turned into a show home within 3 months, because they have to sell the other 5 off plan, or they'll be crippled by the £1,000 a week their huge loan is costing.
This can make or break us, really. It's that crucial to us that we get a good job done, isn't it?
We've never even considered failing. Failing is not an option.
No.
Dave and Nick bought the property for £554,000. They've got £285,000 including costs to renovate the whole terrace, and they're hoping they'll get £1,020,000 from selling all 6, making a gross profit of £181,000. It's a truly colossal project to take on. If they get it wrong on one house, they're potentially getting it wrong on all 6. In Harlexton, Mark and Tammy's rather less than thorough research means they could have a serious problem with their giant old oven. If the listings officer wants them to keep it, I honestly believe they could be kissing goodbye to any profit at all. Mark and Tammy Howard are hoping to make £90,000 in just 4 months out of this listed Victorian bakehouse in Harloxton. But if the Conservation Department want them to keep the huge old industrial oven that takes up this entire room at the back of the property, they could actually lose money. With the Conservation Officer on his way, it's D-Day for this development.
One of the things that we'd like to do is to remove this oven and try and open up the entire kitchen.
It would be a shame if we lost everything which related to the bakery element of it, though. One of the ideas that we might have might be to use this whole frontage somewhere within your revised scheme. I'm not too concerned about what happens behind. I don't think that's of particular significance.
So if we moved it from here and used it, you know, in a wall somewhere, you'd be happy with that? It doesn't have to stay there?
I think we'll have to devise somewhere to put it, which is convenient for you.
That's great.
Yeah, that is brilliant
really
news.
good news.
That is a big weight off our shoulders, I tell you.
This certainly is good news. But the reality is a whole month's gone by and Mark and Tammy are only now sending off their application and can do very little on site until they receive formal listed building consent, which isn't guaranteed. That means a further 6 weeks of frustrating inactivity. Mark's plan for a stress-free 4-month turnaround is looking less and less likely. In Dunstable, Dave and Nick's preparation is paying off. They've taken on this entire terrace of 6 separate properties. And with planning permission in place, it looks as if things are going great guns. That's just as well as they've got ambitious plans to smash the local ceiling price and sell each property for £170,000 by adding a 2-storey extension on the back of each one. Each of the houses has just 1 bedroom upstairs and a lounge leading to a small kitchen and even smaller bathroom downstairs. By adding the extension, Dave and Nick want to create a 2nd bedroom cum study on the ground floor, but also plan to sacrifice the bathroom down here for a WC to make way for a bigger kitchen. And while they are planning to add a bathroom in the extension upstairs, anyone staying downstairs will have to walk through the master bedroom to use the only bathroom in the house. So this is going to be the kitchen in here, yeah?
Yep. So the cloakroom is going in this corner.
Okay.
If I mark it.
Why don't you make this? Is there any reason why you can't pull this out to here and make it kind of there and there, and then you'd have, if you had it along here, you'd have enough room to make that into wet room, so you'd have a downstairs shower room come downstairs loo, which would mean that 2nd bedroom would then be able to use this as a shower room.
We thought that your guests or your friends that are staying over, using your shower room, your ensuite, wouldn't actually present that greater problem.
But I think to get the best price for this development, Dave and Nick should forget the study idea and market each house with a 2nd bedroom complete with a wet room. One of the problems you've got is your resale that you're looking at is £170 a house, and having looked around the area, for a 2-bedroom house around here, you can get a quite nice one for £150. So you are looking at getting quite a lot more.
If we were only selling at £150, then we'd be very upset.
How upset?
I'd be really upset.
I think it would be a really good idea for you at this stage to A, go and talk to some agents, and B, go and look at some wet rooms.
Yeah. I'm not convinced that if we went to an agent and said we're going to put a wet room in, they'll actually have the first idea what we're really talking about. I think
so you've been breaking the trend around here, which is no bad thing, is it?
No.
But ultimately, with all ideas, you should always test it out for yourself. And that's what I suggested Dave should do.
Do you know what a wet room is? No. Yeah. Do you know what a wet room is?
I ain't got a clue.
You don't think it'd be just a London style apartment that would have something like a wet room?
Yeah, I think it might be a good selling point for a house.
Okay.
It's a new moving forward sort of idea, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
No, I reckon it's a pretty cool idea.
Okay.
It's everything in one, isn't it?
I think Dunstable's ready.
Definite winner with the people we've spoken to. Good feedback. Definitely going to do it.
I think this is a real breakthrough for Dave and Nick, and being the first to break the mould in Dunstable might get them the extra £20,000 per property they're so desperate for. Never ones to hang around, just a week later the wet room is already taking shape. And the extensions are not far behind, because with such huge mortgage repayments they can't afford not to get this development done on time. In Harloxton, Mark and Tammy are 9 weeks in, and with their plans finally approved, the hard graft can begin. But Mark's only ever done new build before, and isn't really prepared for the extra work that goes into a listed development. The Conservation Department want them to reuse the original bricks from the oven housing to build the new dining area extension. Painstakingly cleaning up over 5,000 bricks one by one ends up adding another 2 weeks to a schedule that's already looking dangerously out of control.
New build, there's a plan, and you can work pretty much to the plan, and there's not going to be any major surprises. The renovation, every time we come, there's another surprise, there's another problem to get round. We're running out of time, and it looks like we're going to go over budget. It's no longer fun, it's a real worry.
To add to Mark's problems, he's finding it increasingly difficult to run his financial services business and the site at the same time. More often than not, Tammy stays at home. And even when Mark does manage a flying visit to the property, he finds it difficult to get off the phone.
Right, 10 minutes then, you're going to call me back, yeah? In 10 minutes.
And the budget is starting to slip. They're already dangerously close to spending the £80,000 they put aside for the project, and there's still a long way to go. To make matters worse, they come up against another huge conservation issue. On top of the requirement to clean up and reuse the thousands of original bricks in the dining area extension, they need a damp-proof course downstairs. But they must preserve all the old flagstones, which involves numbering each one and laying them back down in exactly the same order. It's a huge amount of work, but I can't help thinking this project should be progressing quicker than it is. Four months in, when the project is meant to be finished, they're miles off. Oh, I can't believe you finally got that extension up.
Yeah. Actually, when they started, it went up really quickly. It was just all the faffing about
A bit
initially.
before.
It makes a big difference in it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really opens the thing up.
What a great kitchen breakfast room.
Will be
That's
good.
to really make it. And your bread oven.
They really...
See, I have to say, I would be tempted to make a hole there and make a little box behind so that you can use it.
Yeah, something else we've still got to think of getting done. So it's not that I don't like the idea. It's just adding something else to the list of things.
Yeah. Are you slightly reaching the end of your tether with this development now? And do you just
I
want to see
absolutely
it
cannot
finished?
wait to flip and get this place sold and out of here, I've got to tell you. In my head, it was only going to take 4 months. Unfortunately, now it's way past the 4 month stage. I'm starting to lose a bit of interest in it.
Building sites do have a tendency to do this. They get to about halfway through and then the heels start to drag, and I know that this is going to be really difficult for you to do, and that's to get down here every day for a few weeks. But that's easier said than done if you've got a full-time job.
Yeah.
Well, I could come down every day for a few weeks, but I don't know how that's going to make any difference.
I think if you're here and you're working on site, it just tends to push things along if you're coming down and you're cleaning up and you're really...
Okay, that's not going to happen. Okay.
Not that kind of coming down.
No, sorry. No, you don't think that we have stress enough in our daily lives. So we have to come down every day.
And that's why I said I think it might...
Yeah, so Tony's idea of managing is a float-through, a quick serene visit.
Excuse me, I do all the paperwork for this, so don't even go there, okay? You have to ask me how much the budget is every day, so don't even go there. No.
That's not your thing.
No, that's not my thing.
No, I think I can understand that. You've got other stuff on, but I'm just saying that is one way that you can get it to move forward, is by actually being here. Good project management is absolutely crucial. And while Tammy is clearly horrified by the idea of working on site, someone is going to have to take control of this development if it isn't going to drag on for many more months. It takes a couple of weeks, but eventually Tammy realises how important it is for her to take over.
What do you think your task will be for this week then? To do by Friday. Right, how far do you think you'll get done with that? Give me some definitives.
Okay.
So what are you on this week?
Keeping Pete and Nick going.
Well, Pete said he hopefully finished that today, so let's push him to do that. Okay?
No problem. Thank you.
Why is that window not in? Please make sure he gets this wall done by today, because otherwise he's going to be off the job, okay? Seriously.
It's very late in the day, but it's great to see things are really starting to move now this project is finally being managed well. In contrast, the schedule in Dunstable is starting to slip.
We've stood still practically on this particular house for the last 3 weeks because we've been waiting for a lintel to turn up. Without the lintel, we can't put the gable on the wall. Without the gable in the wall, we can't finish the roof. I very much want to get this unit done. I want it finished, I want it as a show house.
Nick and Dave are paying £1,000 a week in interest to finance the development, so it's crucial they get the show home up and running as soon as possible so they can recoup some cash by selling the other properties off plan. But the lintel is not the only problem. They don't feel confident enough to design the show home themselves, and they're getting increasingly worried about how it will look.
It's very important to us that the show house is 120% correct. You know, the attention to design detail has to be perfect.
With their limited space, this is going to be a real challenge, and what Dave and Nick need is a crash course in show home design. And there are definite do's and don'ts, so I'm taking them to a show house for these apartments nearby that are also aimed squarely at the young professional market. Decor-wise, I'd never advise going this bold, but the living area, second bedroom and kitchen have almost identical dimensions to Nick and Dave's, and I think there are some good layout lessons to be learned here. This is clearly quite wild and wacky in here. But I think there are things that are really worth taking away from this show house, and that's that they've defined the areas of eating and sitting quite clearly. I mean, I think this kitchen is an example of a little tad of overdressing.
What do you think of these worktops, Sarah?
This high shine on a laminate worktop has a tendency to scratch, it just doesn't last.
We have a really big problem speccing any of the worktops. We're looking at around about £1,000 a kitchen to put granite worktops in our kitchens.
I think you could reduce that by a good £500, £600, £700. Oak block worktop, it's going to be, we're going to be saving in the 6 flats.
That's right.
6 houses, so if you save 500 quid, that's £3 grand. There is one other major point, and that's that you are meant to have finished the show house by now, and you're not, are you? How far off are you?
We're about 4 weeks behind where we really wanted to be.
Are you definitely going to have that show house finished in 4 weeks?
4 weeks we'll definitely have it finished. Definitely.
I hope they're right, because with such huge interest repayments, they really can't afford for their schedule to slip anymore. Nick Holmes and Dave Hearn in Dunstable and Mark and Tammy Howard in Harloxton both took on very tricky listed developments. 6 months ago, when Mark and Tammy fell in love with this Victorian bakehouse, they knew nothing about listed buildings. Now they might be 2 months behind schedule, but the development is finally finished and the transformation is remarkable. The once dilapidated reception room is now a cosy family sitting room. And next door, what used to be the kitchen is a private study. As they also have a separate dining room, it means there are quite enough reception rooms downstairs to keep even a large family happy. Taking out the large baker's oven means there's also a fantastic kitchen diner to congregate in. And Tammy's choice of a simple traditional style is perfect for the property. Hi, how are you? Wow, what a transformation! And when you think that massive industrial bread oven was in this space, it was really worth taking out.
It was, yeah.
So what did you end up doing inside the original ovens?
We just put little sort of cubby holes in so people can put candles, spices.
I've got to say, I'm glad you did something with them, but I do think that it could have been a bit more inspiring. Upstairs has the ideal layout for a large family with a good balance of 6 bedrooms to 3 bathrooms. This house can now be classed as a luxury family home, which will do nothing but improve their resale figure. And the neutral decor makes each room feel light and spacious, as well as giving the potential buyers a blank canvas to work with. Transforming the attic into a private master bedroom and ensuite has made the most of the space up here and will certainly add to the appeal, but quality like this doesn't come cheap. Now, you were hoping to spend £80,000 on this development. How much did you end up spending?
124.
124.
I was gutted. I was really determined to come in on budget to prove you wrong, but unfortunately...
Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't.
Now, you were originally hoping to sell the house for $375,000, weren't you?
Yeah.
What do you think it would be worth now?
Over 400, but how much over, I don't know.
We have had 3 agents round the property, and they have given valuations of 415,000, 415,000 and 425,000.
Excellent.
That is very good.
That's worthwhile.
Because that's massively over what you were expecting. If Mark and Tammy sell for the average of the 3 valuations at £418,000, they'll make an amazing £89,000 gross profit. I think this is a really big success story in terms of development. And if you carried on like this, you'd be millionaires.
That'd be nice.
Do you think we'd survive, though, if we carried on doing that?
No.
So you couldn't do 2 of these a year and stay alive?
Yeah, well, we could, couldn't we?
1 week later, Mark and Tammy accept an offer of £428,000, making them a £99,000 profit that they decide to plough back into another development. And once again, these two are playing for high stakes. You're very brave taking on another listed house, especially after your experiences at Harlexton.
Brave or very stupid?
Yeah, you said it.
Yes.
In Dunstable, Dave and Nick are a month behind schedule with their terrace of 6 houses. They still have 5 properties to complete, but the all-important show home is up and running and is spot on for their target market of young professionals. They've really taken on board our conversation about what makes a successful show house, and downstairs have cleverly made this small room feel much bigger, with well-defined living and dining areas. The kitchen is small but beautifully formed, and it was the right decision to go for the oak block worktops, which are both affordable and stylish. And I'm thrilled that they finally went with the wet room idea. It has a great contemporary feel and should be a real selling point. Although in the ground floor extension, cramming in a desk makes it feel more of a study than a real second bedroom. Overall, though, this is contemporary design out of the top drawer and is exactly what the market needs. But the question is, how much did it all end up costing?
The overspend is around £6,500, of which £2,500 is putting the wet room in. I think the wet room is a brilliant idea. I think the wet room definitely makes these houses more saleable.
But have they done enough to break through the ceiling price and reach the £170,000 target they were hoping for?
Because you can see everything in place with the dining area and the sofa, it works really well.
Really good quality kitchen with the solid oak worktops.
And it's a fantastic use of the space. Brilliant idea.
You've also got the downstairs wet room. If someone else is coming home, wants a quick shower, that's ideal.
I would value this property at £180,000.
I would value this property at £180,000.
I would value this property at £180,000.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
no, we're well pleased with that.
Dave and Nick bought the entire terrace for £554,000. They should end up spending £324,000 on the whole development and bring in £1,080,000 from selling the 6 houses, which would give them a giant £202,000 profit.
We're pleased. We're very pleased. When we've sold one, we're going to be even happier.
Dave and Nick get off to a great start, selling one house straight away. Houses 2, 3, 4 and 5 follow in the next couple of months. But then their luck runs out. Crucially, the last one just won't shift. A year later, the last almshouse still hasn't sold. As it stands, they've made a £26,000 loss on their investment. But that hasn't stopped them buying development after development after development. But despite being out of pocket on the almshouses, Dave and Nick have bought not 1, not 2, but 3 new sites. They've been borrowing money and buying up land at breakneck speed. The big difference is, this time round, there's not a listed building in sight. In fact, their experience with the almshouses has put them off renovations altogether. But never once to give up, they're now convinced new builds are the way forward.
Renovations are bloody hard work. With new builds, you don't have to be there all day, every day.
We can be out looking for new bits of land and, you know, making our business go forward with new projects.
But they're still taking bigger and bigger risks. In the town of Ampthill, 5 miles from Dunstable, they're spending £730,000 building 7 one-bed flats. Down the road in Westerning, they're investing a further £900,000 on 9 brand new flats on the site of this old garage. And finally, they're spending £600,000 in the neighbouring village of Barton-le-Clay to construct 6 terraced cottages.
The profit that we should return ourselves on this really should set a good grounding for the future and make us, you know, essentially cash rich.
This kind of property developing is not for the faint-hearted. Altogether, they're borrowing a phenomenal £2.23 million. But if they get what they're hoping for in the way of sales, they stand to make just short of £1 million. This is serious money, but every unsold unit means a huge dent in their profit. So it's crucial they get off to a good start with the Ampthill development. 1 month later and the show flat in Ampthill is finished. They've clearly learnt a lot from the Dunstable almshouses about the way to market their developments.
It is very important to have that show house. People really cannot go into a building and visualise how a space is going to work unless you give them good, clear indicators.
It's a lovely flat, and what's particularly impressive about it is it's actually incredibly small in here, isn't it? And by designating the spaces that, as you have, you've made it feel a lot bigger. There's no doubt that one of Dave and Nick's real strengths is their ability to deliver a great end product. Have you had any interest in any of the flats yet? I mean, they're really nice.
Well, we've sold 3 units.
Are they actually sold?
We've taken deposits on 2.
So 2 are exchanged? And...
No, not exchanged. We've taken holding deposits.
It's a good start, but by now Dave and Nick should know that a property isn't sold until the ink is dry on the contract. A lesson from their Dunstable development. So you're 18 months in, several £1 million in debt, and you haven't actually had any profit out yet?
No.
Scary.
But next year will be a good year, won't it?
Yeah, fingers crossed. With their massive debt, Dave and Nick are in an extremely vulnerable position. But ultimately, it's their willingness to take that risk that could make them a huge profit. If they can hold their nerve and luck is on their side, they could be well on their way to making their first million. In Harloxton, Mark and Tammy haven't let the grass grow under their feet either. They've decided to go straight into another development, but this time they've really upped the stakes and have gone for not 1, but 2 listed properties.
Absolutely maxed out now. Where you thought we were taking a risk at Harloxton, now we are really up against it.
Mark and Tammy Howard had a hugely stressful time developing their old listed bakehouse, but a £99,000 profit has persuaded them to go back for more punishment. A few miles outside Grantham in Lincolnshire, they've just spent £725,000 purchasing the Grange, which consists of a Georgian farmhouse and an ancient threshing barn. Both listed and both ripe for renovation. You're very brave taking on another listed house, especially after your experiences at Harloxton.
Brave or very stupid?
Yeah, you said it.
Yes.
Joking aside, the Grange is a worn-out 5-bedroom house that hasn't been touched for 30 years. But together with the barn, it's all part of a grand plan. Did you buy this house so that you could develop the barn, or did you buy this house to live in?
We bought this house to live in.
Yeah. So does it matter if you can't develop the barn?
Well, it does, because our ideal always is to own a house without having a mortgage. That's the ideal. And in doing that barn, we can own this house without paying anything on it.
So the plan really is that you convert the barn, sell it, and the profit from that pays off your mortgage here.
Exactly.
Over the next 6 months, Mark and Tammy set about turning the farmhouse into a family home. But they're so strapped for cash, for the first time they're forced to live on site while the work is carried out. And in my experience, that's never a good idea.
Yeah, sure.
That no one can anticipate the stress that it puts on you, on a relationship, on, you know, living with filth and dust and builders in your house every single day, and it just has taken far more of a toll on us than anyone would imagine.
We will never, ever do a project when we're living inside the project, ever. In fact, I've redefined what never means, okay, after this project.
It takes 8 months for Mark and Tammy to finish the farmhouse, but the result is spectacular. They've created a truly opulent home with no expense spared. From the solid oak kitchen and high-tech gadgets in every room, right up to the fabulous master suite. This is a highly desirable property. But it's been a truly exhausting experience, and Mark and Tammy now desperately want a break from developing. The problem is they've ended up spending a staggering £360,000 on the renovations, £100,000 more than they planned. So they're forced to move straight onto the barn to claw back some money.
Because we've overspent so dramatically on this house, we have no choice but to develop the barn, and in fact to develop a couple of other properties after that. So the barn to us is actually a complete pain at the moment, because we just don't have any reserves, energy reserves or any enthusiasm for it.
With motivation at an all-time low, Mark and Tammy take on yet another listed building. And with planning already secured, they can now set about converting this dilapidated barn into a luxurious 6-bedroom family home. It's a huge job.
We are standing right now in what's going to be the lounge area, and as you can see, we've both got these doors behind you and in front of you, which will be glassed, and this space will purely be a massive double height void. So very open plan, very modern, so yes, this will just be a beautiful, beautiful space.
It's very ambitious, and so is the return Mark and Tammy are hoping to make. The standalone value of the barn is £250,000. Mark and Tammy plan to spend £100,000 on the renovations and hope to sell it for £650,000, making them a potential profit of £300,000. That's a huge amount of money, but Mark and Tammy have managed to rack up so much debt that they're going to need every penny, so they've got to get the barn absolutely right. Fortunately, they've learnt some valuable lessons from their old bakehouse development.
Sarah helped us tremendously at Harlexton. She added big time to our profit because we did as she suggested. We've tried to take those lessons in, and with the barn, especially looking at the space and looking at it in a different way to see how we can maximise, obviously, the profitability of the thing moving forward.
10 weeks on, and with the first floor in place, the barn is really starting to take shape. The new extension is going up at breakneck speed, and it's becoming clear to Mark what type of development he prefers.
What's quite nice with this project, with the new build, is that there is progress every day, and that relaxes me. It's when on the Grange and at Harlexton, it just seemed to take forever. You couldn't see change on a day-by-day basis. On something like this, you can.
Almost 6 months to the day since they started, and bang on schedule, the barn is completed. Mark and Tammy have transformed this broken shell into a truly fabulous family home. The large windows allow light to pour into this gorgeous open plan area, complete with lounge, dining room and kitchen. Now, you did have a little bit of a falling out last time about which kitchen to put in. Who won this time round?
No, there was no disagreement. I was doing the kitchen, he just didn't...
I get ridiculed about that kitchen.
No, he didn't get involved with the interior with this one at all. It's just been down to me, so he's just left.
So you just didn't bother even trying? Basically, you just rolled over?
I have absolutely rolled over. It's Cam's responsibility.
It's a cracking development. Downstairs, there are separate reception rooms in addition to the open plan area, which makes this development perfect for the family market. And upstairs, it's just as successful. Fantastic beams.
Yeah.
That's a great big piece of wood, isn't it?
It's nice to have the height as well.
It's amazing, actually.
How much is this on the market for you? Because you've had it valued, it's on the market, isn't it?
Yeah, 695.
695. Even though yet again their budget rocketed, this time from £100,000 to £187,000, if they sell the barn at £695,000, they will make a £258,000 profit, which they desperately need.
Absolutely maxed out now. Where you thought we were taking a risk at Harlexton, now we are really, really up against it because of the overrun we had on the Grange, and now this.
So you've got a bit of a cash flow crisis.
Well, absolutely. You know, we are a classic case of asset rich and cash poor at the moment, and it's a real worry.
Cash flow can cripple any developer, but I doubt they'll have any problems selling this property. They've got the mix between traditional and contemporary styles just right, and all in all have done a fantastic job. So do you feel that you perhaps overstretched yourself by doing the house and the barn?
Yes.
Yes, it's been very stressful.
With the Grange itself in the house, because we were living there whilst all the work was taking place, and you know, you're there in the morning having your cornflakes and someone walks past with a barrow full of wet cement, and you've got your 1-year-old playing in the sand that's in the corridor, and it's just a nightmare, and there was never any break from it. And I think it tested us to the maximum, didn't it?
But no divorce?
No, we're not.
Very close.
Mark and Tammy have pushed themselves to the limit on this project in every way. The question is, will they ever be able to look at a listed development again? So what are the plans for the future?
It's new builds. It is.
I seem to have heard that before.
Yes. Well, it's, you know,
it really is new build.
It really is new build.
Yes.
We're virtually at the exchange contract stage on one piece of land, and actually another piece has just come up as well.
So you're thinking of buying 2 pieces of land? Is this news to you?
This is news to me.
It only happened yesterday.
Oh my God.
You've been telling me how stressful this is and how stressed you are, but now you've decided to buy 2 pieces of land. You're mad.
Yeah, thank you.
Rather you than me. Ta-ra! Mark and Tammy have proved that listed buildings can be very profitable. Even so, just like Nick and Dave in Dunstable, they've decided that the pain just isn't worth the gain. And from now on, they'll be giving listed buildings a very wide berth indeed.